Everything fucking fruit flies again. Maybe these aren't fruit flies. Maybe these are just like small flies and there's a better name for them. I've been calling them fruit flies my entire life. Oh my god, this is... Jesus. Whew. Oof. Anyway, it's just as hot this day as today as it was, like 2 days ago or 3 days ago when I posted on my Patreon that kind of wanted to do a sit rep, but it's just impossibly hot outside. Like my phone would start overheating in 5 minutes. Well, today is just this day, but not really talking about anything important. I just there's one observation on which I have a literal note on my phone for just something like this. I mean, I could probably write an essay on it, honestly. But who cares? It's not like I'm in like English or literature or something like that, you know. MA or even at least BA program for something like this to actually be read by somebody. Yeah, but so the note, I don't know if there's a point, honestly, talking about it to myself, but I definitely do not have time to write an essay. I'm writing way too much right now, and even significantly more than just across zero, actually. But yeah, so the other week or the other month even, actually. Oh yeah, it was, oh my god, when was it? Not sure if it was 2 months ago. It might have been 2 months ago. Had a brief conversation with somebody who I assume would identify themselves as a fan of contemporary anime or fan of modern anime. And by modern, I mean like, you know, what came out in the last 5 years. Which I found absolutely amusing because the person was actually about my age. Well, they still are. And I'm like, how can anyone, you know, older than, well, I would give like 20, I would say, is like the oldest you can be to still watch anime produced after like 2015. Like, what's the thing? Like, for real? Like, like, how is this possible? Like, are you seriously watching, like, what, Attack on Titan? And be like, oh, dude, this is, like, so original and fresh. And this is so imaginative. Or like, what? Like Demon Slayer or whatever the fuck else, you know, you guys are watching who pretend to be fans of anime. Like current anime culture. Like, dude, current anime culture is just as detestable as, like, furries. There is nothing of value in there. It's just slop. Calculated slop. Anime couldn't even evolve. Like, it's more popular than ever, and it couldn't even evolve into, like, actually having some production values. You know? I've seen, you know, bits and pieces, snippets of what you guys are watching today. It's ridiculous. Like, it's animated just as bad as the just like phoned in, you know, filler for TV airtime from the 2000s and like early 2010s, or well, I don't know. Last time I legitimately tried to watch a normal anime, you know, like not something gigantic, something legendary, something genre defying, something, you know, like in tops, you know, top 10, top 20, top whatever. Last time I tried watching a normal anime, just kind of like, you know, so that I know what's hot this year, you know. It was probably 2000, maybe 6, I would say. And at that point already anime was just like shit for about 3 years straight. And yeah, so that was basically 20 years ago, and I see like stuff that's coming that comes out today, and it's still just as bad. They still animate stuff by doing like 3 frames per second animations and just like a shit ton of panning. Guys, aren't you using computers right now? Can't you like do like frame blending? Can't you like write a frame, well, draw a frame, and then like draw another one that will take place like a second in continuity, and then have like the computer, without even AI probably, or with AI you can definitely do that, or you can teach an AI to do that, absolutely. Just kind of like draw all the frames in between those two, like keyframes. That's what we have the word for it. We have the word keyframe. You know, not an well, in animation probably, but also just like in video encoding. You know, there's such a word as keyframe. So like, what's the problem? Why can't you guys like fucking animate it properly? Like, they cannot even be bothered to animate things properly. It's despite having all the technology at their disposal. Okay, big pee-pee. Yeah, small pee-pee. And essentially, whew. Yeah, you know, my stance was very easy. Like, dude, if you were a fan of anime 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you know, we had Ghost in the Shell. Whether you like it or not, we had Standalone Complex, which is a more complex and just like fantastic thing than anything that's come out in the last 10 years. You know, obviously we had masterpieces like actual Ghost in the Shell movie, the sequel, whether you like it or not. We had Akira, you cannot deny Akira. We had Memories, the opening thing about the space rose. Have you seen the quality of animation on that shit? Have you seen the animation in Jinro? You know, not gonna, like, Ghibli probably doesn't need to be mentioned at all. Again, Cowboy Bebop, despite being a TV thing, I'm not talking about the movie, of course. Cowboy Bebop, the TV series, the original TV series, well, you know, it still was not animated nowhere near cheaply. Well, first of all, it looked fantastic. But the quality of animation itself, the fidelity of animation itself, it was not animated as cheaply, nowhere near as cheaply as like the best animated, not like Boruto, you know, episode. Like, no, that shit has absolutely nothing on Cowboy Bebop. Evangelion is not a particularly expensive show, you know, and still it looks better, 300 fucking million times better, you know, than anything that's come out, like for TV, you know, in the recent decade or more. And, is that a, yeah, god damn it, sorry, we'll be shaking it periodically because, you know, mosquitoes are landing on me, on May. So, of course, I could not, you know, not mention you know, Cowboy Bebop. And after the short exchange was over, where, you know, I basically just name dropped all the greatest shit ever and basically say, how can you like know how things can be and then you still settle for like Demon Slayer, you know? Like Slayers, have you fucking read or watched Slayer? Slayer's incredibly cheaply animated, but fucking hilarious. Like like you're really gonna watch like Slayers? You're really going to watch like Attack on Titan over, like, I don't know. Like 500 titles literally came to mind. You even think of something that was like super corner cuttingly animated, like Guns, for example. Manga is awesome, of course, although I only read the first act. I've read like 20, no, not even 20, I meant to say 10 about a dozen chapters, issues of the second arc. I don't believe, like, where's the second part takes place? It's either in Osaka or in Yokohama or something like that. Which is like, well, Yokohama is basically Tokyo. So I don't remember even where. I don't remember too many details about it, but I think it's Tokyo, right? The season 1, so to speak. Well, anyway. So yeah, I stopped reading Guns around that time because it just it was very obvious that it became a slob. It just became, okay, let's keep doing kind of like the same thing again, but try to pretend that we're freshening things up. Like, nah, dude, this is just kind of meh. Okay, even Guns, you know, because I think it was done by Gonzo, and everything Gonzo ever done, even like Last Exile. Dude, Last Exile was so awesome, but Last Exile was animated like Gonzo gave zero fucks at all. I wonder if Gonzo still actually cares about how they blend 3D and 2D in their animation, because in the 2000s, Gonzo was animating 3D things at the full speed of the like frame rate of the video. So you would have characters and whatever else, you know, was animated by hand, you know, moving at 3-5 frames per second, you know, entirely static backgrounds, of course. And amidst all that, you would have like 3D models of like ships, you know. God damn it, what do they call those? Like jet fighters, essentially. Well, not jet fighters, but fighters, like dog fighters. What do they call them in Last Exile? Let me know in the comments if you do. Well, actually, don't bother, because I can just as easily look it up. Well, you know what I'm saying, right? Like you would have those things, you know, move amidst all that 2 to 5 per second frame animations. You'd have those things zooming around the screen at like 30 FPS, right? Because that's your TV. Probably not even 24. Well, actually, maybe 24. I don't know. But it just looks insane. It just looks like, couldn't you just like lower the frame rate of this thing so that it actually looks like, you know, you kind of cell shaded, right? You kind of cell shaded, you make it move around with the speed of, you know, with the same frame rate you animate everything else. Maybe even you put some kind of like distortion, you know, shader, you know, on this whole thing, so that maybe the model even slightly, ever so perceivably, kind of like warps with each frame, so it looks like it's being redrawn. Although, like Japanese animators, they animate so precisely, like there's almost no kind of like warpage of edges when things are being animated. And a lot of things that are being animated are actually kind of like cardboard cutouts, or they being traced, you know, so that you get exact lines every time anyway. There's like something to trace. Both just general artists and animators, they use a lot of things that they do not necessarily redraw by hand. They just trace them. And I don't mean like trace the previous picture, like when you draw on top of it, put your piece of paper on top of the previous one. Like, no, I mean like literal things you can. That's kind of like a template for whatever you need to do. Yeah, and Gonzo couldn't even bother doing that. I mean, I don't know, maybe they tested like everything, like I said, and they just decided that it's actually somehow it looks worse. But I don't know, guys. I say you keep trying, you know, until you find a way to do it properly, because having 2D animated anime characters and environments at 5 frames per second and in the same frame you know, having like 3D elements that move around at 30 FPS, like that's just so stupid. I was like, even back in the day, I actually kind of like was originally getting into anime around that time when like Gonzo started doing that shit, like, and really popping off, like doing everything under the sun. It was just, everything was Gonzo, Gonzo, Gonzo. And I was perplexed, like, why do they keep doing this and get away with it? Like, how are they not critiqued into hell for this animation practice? And second, why can't they just like figure out a better way to do it? It makes absolutely no sense. Like, if they already do this shit, they obviously already don't care, because it's obvious that it looks like shit. So if they do it, it looks really bad. So they obviously don't care. Well, you might as well, you know, try lowering the frame rate so that it looks, you know, maybe just as badly or even worse, but at least it looks like right. And you can blend stuff also. Like, you can animate it at like a movement at 5 frames per second, and then just blend the frames to kind of make it look like kind of like motion blur, essentially. They do it for some animes. They absolutely have motion blur between frames. Some animes, they don't have motion blur. It's like literally animated like this. It's just like, you know, things teleport, you know, a few millimeters at a time. And some animes, if you analyze them frame by frame, you can see blending. Well, typically, I suppose there needs to be blending. Especially since most animes, I assume, right, like if they air for TV, they're animated at 30 FPS. But then if you buy them, for example, they render them at 24, which automatically, like, you know, frames need to be reshuffled and blended. But originally for TV, I'm not sure if they blend all the frames, because obviously they never animated 30 FPS. They animated like 5, 10 FPS, like, you know, 15 if you're lucky. But then I wonder if they actually blend the frames, or if they let them duplicate, and that's it. I don't know. So I thought to myself, okay, well, of course, the thing is that the person, I made the argument for like really, what are we even doing here? Like, if we are, like, what is the scope of being a fan of anime in 2025? The person was not combative, and I tried not to be combative also, because, dude, baby Jesus knows I don't give a fuck about anime. You know, if this is not 1980, last time I checked, this was not 1985, then I don't care about anime. You know, you can take this thing and run with it and say it's the greatest, say it's the worst. Like, this is your thing, okay? I don't care which furry fanfiction is the best, okay? I honestly, I'm not involved, you know, in that sphere. I absolutely have no interest. It can either burn or flourish. You can keep your you can keep your furry thing, okay? I'm not passionate about it. But I basically, to my question, like, how can you watch Cowboy Bebop and then the next day watch like Demon Slayer? Like, what are we doing? And that's where the conversation ended, because basically nothing that I named, you know, Bebop, like Memories, Akira, you know, Standalone Complex, obviously Ghost in the Shell, all that stuff. I think I even name dropped Ghibli, and that's funny how my Ghibli mention wasn't even, because you can counter me, right, and say Ghibli like is borderline not anime, right? Ghibli is in a league of its own. Like, you cannot say, hey, you know, Ghibli destroys all the other anime so much, like, how can you even watch other anime? No, Ghibli, first of all, has its own theme, and you know, you're not gonna get a cyberpunk adventure out of Ghibli. So you cannot live and die by Ghibli. Like if you're like you probably need to be into some other stuff as well. But basically, you know, I threw in my argument very off the top of my head. I did not have the list of greatest animes of all time. Last time I was engaging with that culture was 20 years ago, and the person said absolutely nothing in response, basically demonstrating that they probably didn't even know, let alone watch, most of the stuff that I listed. So that's why, you know, that's the culture. It's because Crunchyroll and Netflix, you know, just tells us which anime to watch, and we binge it, you know, and it's kind of fun. So that's how we do it. And I get it. Like the first anime I watched accidentally on TV, and then went out of my way and got a DVD for it, because it was before internet, because I like actually wanted to like see what the whole thing was about, because I only caught like maybe 30% of it on TV, and it was amazingly animated. It had amazingly, fantastically like retro-y soundtrack, was immensely wholesome, and it was the original OVA Megami Sama. Oh my goddess, you might know it as. The original OVA, I don't know which year it was, like 1984 or something. I'm guessing. And that was my first thing. That was my very first thing, because I was like, wow, this was actually a really smart, really funny, and wholesomely written, with a like pretty interesting kind of like whatever, how do you call it, mythological, paranormal element, kind of just like a rom-com essentially. And who the fuck would have known, you know, that you can make a rom-com like that? It's actually interesting to watch. That's barely cringy, and that's actually funny. So yeah. And I had only one friend in high school who also who was getting it, who understood the thing. Because everyone else, I attempted to talk about with this thing. Everyone else I attempted to show this thing, they just couldn't get it. You know, it was like, you know, it was like showing Blade Runner to a goat. It would not appreciate the visuals, the themes. It wouldn't. It just wouldn't get it. It would look at it and say, "This is not grass. I want grass to chew on. Why are you showing this to me? What is this? I don't even understand what I'm looking at. It's just a bunch of colors." You know, and that's how most people are. So I'm not surprised that most people are perfectly satisfied with Attack on Titan and Demon Slayer. But what I am surprised is that even among people who consider themselves to be like anime consumers, yep, this is 2025, welcome to it. Nobody ever bothers to go back and check out, probably even like the original Evangelion series, probably no one fucking ever seen it. My guess is that probably like 99% of people who attend like anime cons in the United States, and the rest of the world probably, maybe except Japan, because in Japan, you know, the nerd community in Japan is very, very strong. And the nerd community in the rest of the world is Reddit. So it's definitely elitist, but it's not strong in any way. And yeah, man. Probably nobody even seen like the original Evangelion series. Everyone just seen like the remake movies, like little shot by shot remakes of those, you know, the original runs of the original run. And like, yeah, wow, this is just like so inspiring that I'm talking to somebody about anime, and like automatically right? If you're talking to somebody about anime, you gotta assume that this like, I don't know, 20 years ago, for example, you had to assume, you could assume easily that if somebody was talking to you about anime and the person was not Japanese, they were probably pretty hardcore, because you needed to go out of your way, you know, to research stuff, to learn about stuff, even like culturally and whatnot, in order to even understand things in the first place. Because fan translations would often, you know, not translate certain terminology, certain like Japanese lexicon, and you would basically have to go out of your way and, you know, like learn about it. It's like, you know, when, like Japanese, they measure square footage of a living space in tatami. So it's like, my room is like 5 tatami. You know, you say that to like an average American of any generation, really, they'll just say, what? You talking about like tatami mats? Well, how fucking big are they? I mean, you tell them square footage in meters, they already have literally zero like idea what you're talking about. You tell them like 100 square meters. In their head, you can be talking about like a citywide thing, because they don't understand if meter is meter like a mile, because meter kind of sounds like a mile. So meter, it's like Farscape's metra, which is supposed to be like metro is supposed to be like approximately a mile or a mile and a half, I suppose, I think. You know, it kind of sounds similar. So that's like Americans, that's how Americans hear it. They hear meter kind of sounds like mile. You know, what's kilometer then? Kilo. I wonder kilo is like K, like Y Army 5K, right? So they might deduce that, but then they think kilometer, oh my God, it means 1,000. It means 1,000 miles. Kilometer means 1,000 miles. Okay, I get it. Cool, get it. Let's go. You know, finally, I understood it. I feel so smart. You know, but I'll be honest with you. It doesn't matter who you say that, you know, like my room is 5 tatami. Like what is, like, doesn't matter if you say that to American. Doesn't matter if you say that to, like, you know, a Swede. They would not understand. Okay, tatami is like about like maybe what, like 1.5-ish square meter or something like that. But then I'm thinking about tatami I once saw in a movie. Are they talking about the same ones, or do they have like a proper one, you know, in Japan? Like, what are we talking about? Like, you know, you have to research that stuff. And now you don't have to go out of your way, you know. You boot up Netflix and you have Boruto Adventures in a far magical land. You know, you have Demon Slayer, folk metal here, yeah. Oh fuck, this first time in my life I'm hearing folk metal. Remember that shit? Yeah, fuck, every single normie thinks they're pirate when they hear it. Like, oh my God, what magical music is this? You know, it's the fucking Irish jig, or whatever the fuck, bitch. It's been around since 50,000 years ago. And also we had bands playing this kind of music, like folk plus metal, for about the same time. So congratulations. I'm very glad I now have this hardcore fan, you know, by my side in you. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining the cause. And yeah, so like you talk to those people and they're like, cowboy what? Bebop? Is that like jazz thing? Yes, it is a jazz thing. Yes. You know, they probably think like cowboy plus bebop. They probably imagine some kind of like trigun, whatever. How do you say it? Probably trigun. I've never watched it actually. I've watched I think like one episode of it a long time ago. I know it's supposed to be awesome. I just never got around to watching it or reading it. I think it's manga. I do remember noticing that anime was really shittily animated, so it's probably a manga screenization. Yeah, and what else do we have? But they probably wouldn't even know what Trigun is, obviously. So, yeah. I probably know what Berserk is, unless there's a recent, Berserk movie, coming out. So, yeah, dude, like, that's the type of community we're talking about. But the funniest thing is that, of course, thinking of Cowboy Bebop made me think of Firefly. And how Firefly was, just completely, utterly unfinished, and then there's no other way to put it, they just literally wrapped it up with the movie, like out of nowhere. We're definitely going somewhere, we can kind of see the destination there, and we're like still right here, let's just end it. And I appreciate the closure, of the movie. I definitely do. I appreciate, thank you for the closure. Absolutely. 100%. I understand why you did it. I understand why you felt compelled to do it. But the thing is that with things like Firefly, destination is not the point. I think everyone understands that. Especially when something is serialized. Everyone understands, I believe, right? That the destination is not the point. It's the journey. So we're skipping the entire journey just to get to the destination that isn't that important in the first place. And then it's the kind of destination that puts a definitive period at the end of the whole thing. Was it necessary? I don't know. I don't know. I would give, like, on the scale from 0 to 10, in terms of necessity and like actual like kind of like contribution to the IP and the universe of Firefly, I mean, I would give the Firefly movie maybe 6 out of 10, honestly. It's a great movie. I appreciate the closure, but I don't believe it was. It's okay. It's okay to have it. It's even nice to have it, sometimes, but honestly, I think it was unnecessary, and in the end, it did not really contribute all that much, to the universe that was established and barely explored in the series. In fact, the whole series could have probably been just like a mini-series. Honestly, they could have done something like that. It's like, remember the reboot of Battlestar Galactica? Opened with like 2 mini movies, right? We call them mini-series. And then we have the actual show, and the actual show almost completely falls apart in the first season, because you can clearly tell that they had a really cool idea for the movie, right? Earth is being destroyed. We basically have this one less ship. Not literally, because one of the plot lines is that there are actually other ships that might need help of the one big military vessel. But we basically have this one less ship, that can kind of guide a resemblance of a fleet, that's completely defenseless, they basically don't matter. They only matter as much as we can protect them. And we can only protect them. Well, Battlestar Galactica. Galactica can only protect them as long as they actually jump with Galactica and not like make some mistake and I don't jump someplace else, or if they, well, for as long as none of them are, none of them catch a stray, so to speak. One second, I need to do something on my phone real quick, and yeah, man, like, you then start the, there he is. Okay, no, let me go back to doing my thing. You then start doing the TV episodic series, and there are just like it's just things happening. Not to mention the whole thing just looks like absolute trash because of the camera shake. Okay. Oh, cool. Turned it off now. On now. Yeah, and what I wanted to briefly mention is just my fascination with... So we have things like Firefly that basically don't have an ending at all, and then we immediately have the alternative scenario of, okay, what if we have like an abrupt ending just for closure? So that's like the superposition of Firefly. Firefly exists in two states. The completely unfinished one, where we basically get cut literally mid-sentence. And another one is that we have the version of Firefly that does offer us a closure that comes out of nowhere. We have then IPs like Battlestar Galactica that keep going on despite having absolutely nothing to say. And then we have something in between. Not even between. We have a completely, like a third corner of the triangle, which I wonder if there's a name for it. But I call it OCD. I call it writer's OCD. It's the obsession with closure in science fiction. And specifically, I wanted to offer a contrarian opinion on something. Who would have known? Who would have guessed? You know, Johnny Boy has a contrarian opinion. Anyway, so here's the situation. We have Farscape. Farscape is perfect, right? Farscape is flawless. Honestly, I believe the Peacekeeper Wars movies. Is it Peacekeeper Wars or Peacekeeper War? I think it's the Peacekeeper War. No, I don't remember much about how the thing is called. I just watch it. To me, it's just Farscape, the ending. I believe those movies were utterly unnecessary, and they switched focus away from what the series was actually about. The series was never about saving the universe or saving the galaxy. I don't think it's ever even established whether like Earth and all the like Farscape shit is in the same galaxy or not, but we assume that it is, because it wouldn't have done too much sense if, you know, we had all these wormholes and like, okay, one of them accidentally, you know, goes to a whole other galaxy just to Earth. Like, it doesn't make sense. So, fate of the galaxy, right? And also, it's never established that we have any fucking kind of technology that would allow us to, like, jump galaxies in Farscape. So, cool. We have that, right? We have the... we have the stake, suddenly, in the movies, of needing to save the galaxy, needing to stop the galaxy-wide war, you know, genocides of races we honestly don't even care all that much about, except Earth, you know, like Earthian humans. Like, honestly, whatever. Who cares if, like, Scarans get genocided? Like, legit, honestly. You know, you portray them as Nazis anyway. You know? Who cares? I don't get it. Peacekeepers, okay, a bunch of peacekeepers get to be killed. Who cares? Like, peacekeepers are not good people. We all know that. At the very, very best, peacekeepers are... well, first of all, peacekeepers are just a bunch of Australians. Okay, so that's a huge problem right here. But also, peacekeepers... like, it's established that, yeah, sure, I mean... We don't like the idea of peacekeepers maybe being genocided, like, completely, because they're kind of human, right? Because we have Aaron as the, like, ambassador of peacekeepers, obviously, and we like Aaron. I assume you do, right? Because that's the point. I mean, who doesn't like Claudia Black? Like, you... That's what the script says. That's the note at the bottom of the script says basically that. We, you know, yeah, we don't like the idea of peacekeepers being, you know, killed in droves, but it is also demonstrated that peacekeepers are all like brainwashed military, like Nazis as well, basically, just as Scarens. Scarens are just like, they're Nazis because they're assholes, right? They are like literally racist. Peacekeepers are racist because they told. They are like space marines. Basically, all Xenos must die. All of them. Like everything that's non-human. They just need to go. Right? That's peacekeepers. They have a doctrine that says, like, everyone needs to die. Scarens, they don't really have a doctrine, I feel like. They just, like, naturally assholes. And they essentially do have the same kind of ideology. But simultaneously, I don't think they think of it just in quite as much structure as peacekeepers. So suddenly in the movies, we have this big stake where we need to stop the war, we need to, save the galaxy. Excuse me, when were we supposed to be, like, when was it the point of the show that we're stopping the galaxy? The point of the show was survival. And finding your way out of this corner of the galaxy so that hopefully none of these people will ever find you again. Preferably to Earth. And make it so that none of those assholes can follow you to Earth. Like, that's it. That was the point of the whole thing. Suddenly, we are interstellar heroes, saving the galaxy, stopping wars, and it's like, okay, whatever. I mean, all the characters pretty much do all the same things, and it's not that the show did not lay the foundation for what is happening in the movies, but this like just sudden switch in focus of it's like, okay, you know what this whole thing was about this entire time? It was about saving the universe by stopping a galaxy-wide war. Really? That's where we were going this whole time? I mean, you kind of did make it rather believably that, you did take it there rather nicely as a writer. Absolutely, I agree. But was this really the point of everything we've been working on for the past, like, 4 seasons or 5 seasons? Yeah? No, I don't buy it. So you know what this screams to me of? Well, if you make it so that Scarens and Peacekeepers are no longer a problem, you get 100% closure of the universe. You fix all the problems in the universe, there will never be any more problems, there will be never any more conflict, there will be no more crime, people will stop being assholes, will stop abusing drugs, they will all sleep very well and always be in good mood. So now we can finally leave this universe with with this weight with this weight offloaded off our shoulders, and we just like we can breathe freely. We don't have to worry about this universe anymore because we fixed it. We fixed the universe. Hallelujah. It's fixed. We finally have closure now. And I hate it when like IPs do that, because there's another IP that did it even more cringily. Well, should I mention that that's not how story is told at all? You have someone like Conan or Mad Max, even, for that matter. Those people aren't saving the world. They serve as vehicles for nudging the universe in a way so that a story can be told. Something bad is happening somewhere. Whoops, there's a Mad Max now. Oh, that thing is not going to happen now. It's going to be all derailed completely, and we will have an epic adventure because of it, because Mad Max is now part of the story. Like, think of every single story Mad Max, or Conan the Barbarian for that matter, participate in, and ask yourself, would adventure actually happen? Would anything interesting actually happen there if Mad Max was not there? Fury Road. Would any of Fury Road happen if Mad Max was not there? What about Conan the Barbarian? Here's the formula. Something bad's about to happen. Hero accidentally shows up on scene. He changes things so that a story can be told. Rather than, oops, a village got genocided. That's it. That's the end of the story. Now, think of it. Conan comes by a village. He rents a room in a local inn. And it starts being genocided right then. Nope. Now there's going to be a story to tell. You know, that's what that's how you tell stories in universes. We have the universe. It's full of stories to be told. But most of them wouldn't really be much of stories unless a wrench is thrown into the system, into the cogs of whatever is happening. And that's what heroes are for. And when you have heroes, especially when you start heroes like that, and then over time you just make them into saviors of the universe, it screams of, first of all, it's like, why are we doing this suddenly? This was never the point. Okay, that's first of all. And second, why isn't this a bit cheesy and like self-inserty and power fantasy-y when this is not how you started writing this story at all? Like, if you want to write something like that, write about a Superman. Stargate SG-1 has a very similar problem. SG-1 starts as this, you know, exploration unit, essentially. We're looking for stuff. We're a very small unit. We're really not a combat unit at all. We're 4 people, consisting of 2 scientists, one with military training, but primarily a scientist. One is full-time scientist. One is full-time warrior, and the other one is full-time warrior, also like leader. There's not that many armies you can take on with a squad like that. And then around season 3, essentially, basically by the end of the first story arc, this is just like a commando unit. An elite one that can take on entire armies, fix, you know, giant problems for everyone. Like, oh, you have a Goa'uld problem in this village? How many are we talking? How many Jafar they have? Like 20, 30, 50? Yeah, we can take on them, you know. And then at the end of it, by the end of SG-1, the writers systematically go from one, you know, cosmic enemy to the other, fraction by fraction, and make sure they are taken care of forever. We destroy Goa'uld so that there's basically no Goa'uld, period. We even completely write Asgard out of the whole universe. Yeah, they were struggling with genetics. It was pre-established. Then one episode, suddenly, Asgard will all commit massive cosmic suicide because they decided that they cannot fix the genetics problem. Well, because leaving them in the universe, you know, was leaving them in the universe full of holes. We have all these enemies, we have all these problems. Asgard could literally fix like that. So maybe we should just like get rid of them so that it's up to SG-1 to fix all the problems. That's the only reason it was done. And it was done so cheesy and unbelievably. Like, by then, you just watch it and think to yourself, am I even watching a sci-fi show, or is this just like an action flick? Like, seriously. And, you know, we then have the Ori arc, of course, with something that honestly could have been, might as well be called SG-1-2. And in just 2 seasons and 2 movies, I believe, which both those movies, by the way, they do have slightly higher production value, of course, but the last 3 Was it 2 or 3? I think it was 3, right? Stargate movies that came out after the show got big. All of them were shot as basically just long episodes of the TV show. None of them were shot as real movies. And all of those movies exist, especially the Ori ones, to just utterly and completely finally destroy the threat. And thread as well. And it's funny that Firefly was the reason I thought about it all. What time is this? Okay. And yeah, I did notice those things, of course, before, but I never drew parallels between how so many IPs end up kind of like reaching this point where the writers just feel like wrapping up the entire universe. It's not natural, it's not normal, and it's not storytelling. And there's literally no reason to do it. And where I wanted to end, what I wanted to end on is Stargate Atlantis. Stargate Atlantis, its ending is, of course, critically unacclaimed by everyone. No one likes that ending because it's a non-ending. Basically, there is a bit of a culmination, but that culmination hardly fixes any problem, really. Well, it does fix the problem of, okay, so the Wraith are... It basically achieves what Farscape is trying to achieve during its first couple of seasons, which is like, we need to go back to Earth so that no one can follow us there. Okay, that's cool. That's pretty interesting. Okay, need to do one more thing on my phone. Sorry. And that's what Stargate Atlantis ends up doing. We go back to Earth. The Wraith problem is not fixed at all, but Wraith cannot really follow us here, so we kind of won in a way. Sorry about that noise. Aini, what are you doing there? Come here. And yeah, dude, it's like the whole thing is basically that, okay, it's time to kind of like end this run, and there's a little bit of a closure. The universe is not saved, all of the problems of the universe are not solved, but the story is over. From this point on, we hardly can even go back to Pegasus. Pegasus is still being dominated and overrun by the Wraith. We are leaving all those people to their fate, which isn't all that fantastic. But what are we going to do from this point on? Like, Atlantis is going to stay on Earth for a long frigging time. There's barely any big like conflict or cosmic issues that can be solved unless you introduce them, like new ones, I mean. With this expedition now being on Earth, all these heroes have barely anything to do on Earth. In fact, it's interesting what some of them will be doing now, because Ronan is going to want to go back to Pegasus, and he actually might. He might find a way to go back to Pegasus and basically stop being part of the team, the expedition. Tail the same thing. So we might as well just end it here. There are still stories to tell in this universe, absolutely, because the universe was not quote-unquote fixed. But the story is over. And again, until I went through all this thread of thinking, I honestly did not appreciate it. Just the other month, a couple of months ago, when I thought about all that, I realized that I actually really respect the ending of Stargate Atlantis. And I don't think even the writers themselves thought about it when they wrote it like that, when they ended the series like that. But I think it's very respectable, and it's actually really smart and sophisticated. I don't think that was even the intention. It's just accidentally had this very grown-up attitude to... We have this franchise, we have this story that takes place in this universe that's full of stories to tell and full of problems. And we're not telling all of them at the same time. And we're not attempting... We are attempting, technically, to fix the problem of this universe, but it's unrealistic and it's undoable because it's the entire galaxy, quote-unquote the entire universe. I mean the universe of the show. It would be rather immature and naive to think that we can fix it. And despite that being the goal, technically, of the run, rather realistically, we end up not really achieving it. But we did achieve a meaningful victory in a way. That's a bit of a bittersweet, of course, because we locked ourselves out of the bigger conflict. But it's definitely an end to a story. And that's what you do as a storyteller. You tell a story, and that story may end in such a way where the universe will be left in a better spot, maybe, debatably, but it's not wrapped up nicely with a bow on top. Like here, look, everything is perfect now. And I find it very funny how so many other IPs are trying to do that and effectively force, the story to go such a route that basically happens. Forcibly, unnaturally, unbelievably. And Stargate Atlantis was never given a chance to do that because, obviously it had to end for, contractual, bureaucratic reasons. And I think accidentally, it actually gave the show a rather sophisticated ending. Because it is intellectually stimulating, even in a way, because you can speculate on what's going to happen next. And there are books, I believe, that speculate on what would happen next. But simultaneously, if you think about it for longer than 1 minute, you realize that once you start speculating, right? You realize that, yeah, sure, just like in any other realistic, believable universe, there are many other stories to tell. But if you actually give it a thought, right, for 1 minute, you will realize, but the story is over. It legit is. And I think ending your story at the point where it ends is a very skillful and mindful thing to do as a writer. So this entire 60-minute long rant was basically just to say this. Stargate Atlantis ending is actually really good and makes total sense. Unlike the long fan fiction decay of SG-1, for example, or even Farscape, because honestly, Farscape, the show, right? The Farscape show ends on Aaron and John basically dying in a rather poetic way. And the universe, from that point on, is left with all of its problems unsolved. The personal arcs of the characters are solved, however. You know, they reached, like, understanding, so to speak, all right? They reached the point where they finally know where they stand in life, and just in the grand scheme of cosmos, and they do achieve one meaningful victory. They get out of one big problem they were dealing with at the end of the series, and then the universe just kills them for it, because that's the reward heroes get at that point. And I think it was a maybe not most satisfying, but the most correct, the most right way to end that story. And where movies, the Peacekeeper War movies took us, was forced and a bit unnatural for the characters. I mean, yeah, technically it's justified, right? Because, okay, we're gonna be parents now. Well, now that we're gonna be parents, we are really concerned with leaving a perfectly safe universe for our child. Yeah, okay, that's like, I get it, and it's nice, it makes sense. I do not hate those movies, and they do provide closure, but they perform the shift of priorities and what the whole thing was even about in the first place. And I think, rather accidentally, Atlantis avoided that. So, yep, that's about it.